I am still exploring Luxor, once the most magnificent capital of the Egyptian Empire. It was here that gods lived on earth, and kings ruled as gods. In the third part of this adventure, tracing ancient Egyptian history, we explore treasure-filled tombs and get lost in the shadow of sanctuaries that shed light on one of history's greatest civilizations. Luxor is an old but captivating city, straddling the fertile Nile. This is the incredible setting for the tale of an ancient city that unfolded almost 4,000 years ago. We go back to the time of the Middle Kingdom to the New Kingdom, when this ancient city called Thebes rose to power. Ancient Egyptians worshipped many gods, but each city would have a patron. For Thebes, it was the god Amun, who is part ram and part man. As Thebes became the capital, Amun became the king of the gods. He was later combined with the sun god Ra, becoming Amun-Ra, strengthening his power even more. Thebes became the center of the universe as they believed Amun-Ra resided here. Wealth poured into Thebes as they won war after war. Pharaohs would build the most magnificent of temples dedicated to their powerful god, who helped them defeat their enemies. This is the Temple of Karnak, said to be the largest religious building ever built in the world.
This temple is dedicated to Amun-Ra, and that's why the Sphinx have the ram head. And below the ram head is the image of the pharaoh.
Passing the ram-headed sphinxes, one enters through massive pylons. The pylons were unfinished, and an object of interest is the remains of this mud brick ramp, left behind by workers as they hurriedly left their post for battle. This offers an insight into how these massive walls were built.
They made these mud bricks and use it as a scaffolding, going higher and higher and longer and further away so that they can pull the rocks and put them one on top of the other.
Workers were divided into groups of 50 men each. Each stone block weighed exactly 2.5 tons. And the reason for this is that 50 kilos is the maximum carrying capacity of each man.
So 2.5 tons divided by the 50 men is 50 kilos each. And up to today, the sack of rice, the sack of wheat, the sack of cement is still 50 kilos. Can you imagine how long this Egyptian mathematics is surviving up to today?
In ancient times, the first courtyard is the only area open to the worshipping public where they can make their offerings. Egyptian temple architecture is unique and recognizable. Living in the lush Nile Delta, which is almost like a Garden of Eden, they became heavily influenced by what they see in nature. Here, the columns are papyrus stalks with closed buds. This one is what remains of 10 massive papyrus columns with open buds at the top. The temple was a constant work in progress, as each pharaoh added something to the temple site to cement his influence. After the next gate, one comes into the great hypostyle hall. The area covers 5,000 square meters, with 134 pillars that used to support a roof. These pillars used to be brightly painted and carved with scenes showing the pharaohs and gods. You can still see the names of the pharaohs written in a cartouche. These columns represent a forest of papyrus reeds in the marshlands of the Nile, where all of creation began. The hall led to the innermost room of the temple, a sanctum that served as the home of the god Amun-Ra. Inside the complex is a sacred lake where priests purified themselves. One can also find beautiful examples of obelisks, towering pillars with triangular top, made from a single piece of stone. They are said to represent a ray of the sun coming down from the sky. These were brightly painted, and the triangular top was covered in a gold and silver alloy called electrum, which shone brightly from a distance. On the temple walls, you can also closely inspect some of the hieroglyphic writing, a unique writing system developed by ancient Egyptians. Most of them are found in temples and tombs and are considered sacred texts. Hieroglyphs can be written from either direction, so in order to determine which way to read the text, look for a symbol with a face. For example, this sitting priest is facing right, so the text in this wall should be read from right to left. By the time of the New Kingdom, they decided to build a new temple meant to be connected to the Temple of Karnak by a long avenue lined with sphinxes. This is the Temple of Luxor. This massive construction is no less striking or less grand than Karnak. Its pylons are decorated by Ramses II's victories in battle, along with his huge statues. The entrance is also marked by two granite obelisks, one of which is now in the Place de la Concorde in Paris. The temple was built to celebrate the Opet festival, where the statues of the god Amun-Ra, his wife Mut, and his son Khonsu are carried from the Karnak temple. Sitting inside a sacred wooden boat, the images of the gods are carried for a mile along the avenue of the Sphinxes in a joyous procession. They are brought to the Temple of Luxor to be rejuvenated, as they believe the gods also grew weary as the agricultural cycle ran its course. Held during the flooding of the Nile, they believed that the gods, along with the world they created, needed an input of fresh energy. There is a transfer of power between the king and the gods, restoring order in the universe. The temple is built on an incredibly massive scale that you are dwarfed by the power this place once held. Up next, we venture from the land of the living to the land of the dead, exploring Luxor's West Bank, where the memory of lost kings live on for eternity.